Hello! I'm Elaine, and I'm a tour guide in the French Quarter. I do ghost tours. And I am not going to tell you the stories that I tell on my tour, because you gotta pay for those. But if you want to hear some interesting things that have happened to me while I'm leading random drunk people around the French Quarter, I got you. For a good while, I was one of the primary trainers for my company. And training tour guides is it's fun sometimes. Usually the way training works is you have the guide do a couple of stops for you one-on-one. Eventually they're going to do some stops for you in front of your group, which always made me uncomfortable because I'm like, I can't guarantee that this group's going to get the the presentation that I would give, but that's why it's important to have the one-on-ones first. And most of the people I trained were wonderful human beings. I loved them. They were sweet. Even the ones that it didn't work out with, they were very nice. There was one guy who, God bless, I wanted to give him a hug the entire time I was training him because keep in mind, one stop on our tour, and our tours have slightly longer stops than most tours, are at most like 7 to 10 minutes. And this guy, one stop by itself, took him 45 minutes to get through. And I thought he was going to cry the majority of the time. He was just so nervous. And when I was talking to him afterwards, being like, sweetie, like, you seem to be scared to talk in front of people. Why are you trying to be a tour guide? He explained that he actually has stage fright and thought that this would help him get over it. And I'm like, talk about jumping in the deep end. Okay. He did not end up, sadly, becoming a tour guide. But I've had a couple of also just, frankly, weirdos that I trained. Luckily, none of them stuck around for more than a couple of tours. There was one guy who, at that time, the way we organized training, we sent out the script before training started and told the trainees to arrive having 1 to 2 stops ready to prepare, like ready to present to us. And that day, quite often we train with 2 or 3 people at the same time, both for convenience, cut down on how much money they're spending me to train people, but also just it's less creepy. But that particular time, I was training him by myself. Just him, nobody else. And when I get there, he doesn't arrive on time. He arrives like 5 minutes late. And as soon as he gets there, I'm like, okay, well, we need to jump on in because limited time. Which stops are you ready to prepare or to present to me? And he's like, oh, I haven't even read the script. And I was like, oh,
Hello, friend.
good sign. But that's fine. I'm not sure what we can do. Like, if you have the script with you, we can do it on book. And he's like, oh, well, I know some history of New Orleans. How about I just give you a quick history at a couple of different spots? I'm like, okay, that will do. Sure, that will give me an idea of your presentation style, if nothing else. And he launches into one story about Jackson Square, and he's doing a number of things wrong, but primarily the thing he's doing wrong is he's stopping every 2 seconds to ask me questions. And I'm like, sweetie, I need you to present a story to me. You need to keep talking. And eventually he's like, well, I'm not sure if I'm prepared to do this. And I'm like, okay, then there's not really much else we can do. I showed him how the systems worked. I talked through some policies, and then I was sort of like, okay, I guess you'll come on a tour and watch. That's the next step. And he was like, okay, well, we got like 3 hours. Could you show me the route? I'm like, it's written on the script. And he's like, yeah, but they don't write the address. And I'm like, if you know the history of New Orleans, you should know where these houses are. But okay, sure, I'll walk you around. And it was the least comfortable walk I've ever had with a human being. He spent a lot of the time talking to me in such a way that I was beginning to wonder if he thought we were on a date, which was really creepy because this guy was in his probably late 50s, early 60s. And eventually, after I've tried to shake him off and gone to a coffee house and he's followed me in, and I'm just sitting there waiting for it to be close enough to my tour time that I can just go give my tour, he's talking to me and I realize that he thinks I'm gay and is trying to set me up with his gay daughter. And I realize this because he literally looks at me and says, oh, you know, my daughter's gay and she's looking for a girlfriend, to which I respond, oh, that's cool. I am an ally. I'm not gay, but thanks. And he's like, well, would you like to go out with her? And I'm like, again, I'm not gay. Thank you, but no. And he did not leave me alone for the entire time. And then he, of course, came and shadowed my tour, which meant he was also there during my tour. And usually the people shadowing on your tour, you sort of want them to back off and watch how you interact with the other guests. And every time there was free time to talk to guests, he was right there trying to talk to me. And I'm like, eventually I always have to be like, sweetie, you need to step back and let me talk to the guests. But he was one of the only tour guides I ever wrote the, email explaining what happened on the training and basically said, you can't hire this guy. He's bad. He's creepy. He's weird. But they did, because, things happen. And I only saw him out there twice. Once he walked up on the location I was doing a tour and was trying to, was just standing awkwardly behind me. And finally I was like, what are you doing? I literally stopped my story. I was like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, well, I'm going to be doing a story here, so I'm waiting for the spot. And I'm like, I just started my story. He's like, okay, I'll wait. I'm like, it's gonna be 15 minutes. Not 15 minutes. It's gonna be 6 minutes. And mind you, he still had, a group with him, and he looked confused, and I was like, you need to go to another location. 50 feet down that way. That's the way this works. I'm sitting here I trained you. I know you know how to do this. But the other time I saw him, and luckily the last time I saw him, he was walking with his group. And by walking with his group, I mean there was one person up front walking vaguely with him, and a string of people spread out what felt like a mile behind him, some of them running. And as they passed by me waiting for my tour group, I hear one of them muttering, Jesus Christ, I can't keep up with this guy. And hilariously, I was waiting with another tour guide at that time to start a tour, and the other tour guide was the other person who trained this guy, and he's sitting here looking at me going, I told them not to hire him. I'm like, I told them not to hire him. How the hell did he get hired? Luckily, he did not stay longer than, a couple of weeks. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and feel free to share your own experiences in the comments below.